there we go. Good morning, hobby friends, and welcome to For Collectors and Hobby Hotline. You get to see me again this week after I hosted last week. So 2 weeks in a row. But this week is one that when it came up on the schedule, I was like, whoa, damn, this is good. I'm kind of like, Wayne and Garth. I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. Two of my, heroes in the hobby, Orlando and Dr. Beckett. So
Hey,
really,
Orlando.
really happy to see you guys
Which one?
on the screen and just humbled to be here. Couple of things I want to talk about just, right off the top. Orlando, I, like many of us saw your video. I guess it was yesterday, and I just wanted to express again publicly, my support and the support of all your friends behind you. I think your video was really a masterclass in courage and dignity, and I salute you and support you, and everybody's behind you. So thank you again for for doing that video and shouting out all the people that were involved. So really, thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Dan, and thanks to community. A lot of people have been asking me how I'm doing, and I don't like to do videos on my personal issues, but I've gotten so many calls, so many texts that I said, you know what, I got to give everybody an update as to what's happening with my health situation, and I just thought it was something that the community support really has really helped me through this whole process. And it's not just about cards. The community is just, about friends. And that's really what it's all about. It's more friends than anything else. And, you and Dr. Jim have become pretty good friends of mine, just like everybody else in this community. So I just want to thank everybody for their support and prayers.
Okay. Well, I totally agree with you. The hobby's about cards, and all of us, we have nice cards behind us and everything, but those cards wouldn't be anything if we didn't have anybody to share them with. So I totally join in that thought. So Dr. Beckett, you and I have never met before, but I am very pleased to have met you this morning for the first time, and thank you again for not again, but thank you, period, for all your work in the hobby going back decades and making the hobby, doing the great work that you do has really helped all of us over the years. And I'm so thankful that, you've done what you've done over the years, and thankful that you're here today. So good morning, sir.
Good morning. I'm always going to get along great with anybody that's got vintage in their name.
Vintage trade night.
And,
I have a series of For Collectors shirts. We have the jerseys that we're supposed to wear, but I don't look good in the jersey. But then we have a series of these shirts for the trade nights, and it's always good to bring them in because they they remind me of good times and being at the National and being at Strongsville and everything. So I want to say hello to the chat. Good morning, Mad City Brew. Good morning, Foul Ball. Philly Joe, how are you? The great Ruben Snyder is here, and of course he is correct. Jim and Orlando are national treasures. Mike Petty is here. Mike Petty, I think you're supposed to open on like 4 different screens so we can put the numbers up, so thank you for that. Good morning, Barry. Stay strong, Orlando, of course. We're all behind you. Adam's Card Closet and the great Mookie Chilson is here. Still groggy from the Mariners Tigers Classic. Thank you for reminding me.
15 innings last night.
I cracked a third beer. That's how long that game went on. So it was. I don't have a play. I don't have a stake in the game or anything. But there's always good baseball. Is always something to watch, and that was a great game last night. Did you get a chance to see it, Dr. Jim?
I went to sleep after 9 innings or whatever. Yeah, that was just thought. I mean, they're going to stay up for the duration, or I'm going to be in bed with my wife. You think I made the better choice? Yes.
Yeah.
Even though
I got to see it. I'm glad that for the playoffs they stopped that. I guess they call it the ghost runner on second base.
Yeah.
because I think it just I like it the way it was before. So I'm glad that they eliminated that in the postseason.
Well, it's a perfect example of why that rule sucks, is because that game would have been over in the 10th or 11th inning. Meanwhile, we got like 5 extra innings of just like nail biting drama and great plays. And, there's an opportunity for a guy like Suarez to make like this terrific throw from third base to nail somebody at home, and then the double plays. And,
Yeah,
Jack
they were
Flaherty,
bases
is that his
loaded
name,
a
Jack
couple
Flaherty?
times.
Whatever his name is, making all those pitches. And so, you don't see that. Baseball history is littered with great games that go into like 15, 16, 17 innings, and those don't happen if you have a runner on second base because the game gets over. It's like, I've always felt that, trying to streamline the game is sometimes maybe the worst thing you could possibly do. So I agree with you, Orlando. Here we go. He's got all 19 streams at the I don't know how he's got 19. So we discussed a little. Orlando and I texted back and forth about some of the topics we might want to discuss. And as I said before we hit the go live, a bunch of older gentlemen are going to talk about some modern stuff. But if anybody in the chat has some issues you want to talk about, or some topics you want to talk about, or anything, let us know, because these two gentlemen here are great hobby minds and can give information and ideas and opinions about things that would be valuable. So good for that. Good for you guys. And so anyway, we talked about, first thing we were going to talk about was grading of Pokemon cards exceeding sports cards, which is something that happened this year. Let me see if I can pull up a screen here.
Yeah, I thought about this, Dan, because I've been going to some card shows lately, and when you go to the card shows,
Whoops.
it seems like they're having more Pokemon tables than ever before. And I mean, I went to one show; it was about 70% Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
And you could see why.
Yeah, so I mean, this is from Collect. Pokemon cards dominating grading submissions, and what it comes down to is 59% of all graded cards are Pokemon, and that doesn't include all the other TCG stuff. Yeah, and the experience that I had at local shows, I worked a local show in Staten Island about, I don't know, a few months ago, and I'm doing it actually next weekend, is that Pokemon was about more than 50% of all the tables there, which is good for a vintage table, because if older guys come in, they go right to me, but maybe not so good for sports. But Dr. Jim, what's your experience with shows and the Pokemon and sort of that kind of thing happening?
If I went to a card show that had 200 tables, and all 200 tables were vintage or sports cards, whatever, I think, hey, that's going to be a great show. Okay, let's go to the same show, and instead of 200 tables, there's 400 tables. Same 200 from before, but another 200 Pokemon and TCG guys. I'm still gonna. I'm not. I mean, the parking may be a little. It may be a little bit bigger crowd, but I'm welcoming. I think they're bringing some energy, and I hope many of them will migrate. What I don't want to see is a shrinkage in sports, in the sports area. The increase in Pokemon, eventually, I'm hoping that's going to be a positive.
Well, I think one of the things that, I mean, the experience at shows can be a little off-putting because it's out of your element. But in terms of just the money coming into the hobby, I think that, it's keeping, if the grading companies are making lots of money grading Pokemon cards, and that's helping them improve their business, then I'm all for it also.
It's not taking money from, it's new money coming in. It's different money. So It's not like if you were set up at a show and you thought, well, I didn't do that well at this show. It's not because of the Pokemon dealers. I mean, if people want Pokemon, then go to those guys. You need to market your own stuff. If our hobby of sports card collecting is doing well, then these other ancillary hobbies, I wish them well. I hope they keep flourishing. But we need to mind our own garden.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Jim. I mean, it's new money coming in, new collectors that maybe have never been in the hobby before. I do see some sports guys getting into Pokemon, where they kind of have a few Pokemon maybe in their case. But I just think that it's all new people coming in, new money coming in, and I see a lot younger crowd and a lot more kids getting involved in the Pokemon. And I think, like Dr. Jim says, it's a good thing. The more they get into that, maybe they'll move some of those into sports later on. My concern is it a bubble that's going to burst?
Well,
You've had
it's
some.
the junk slab comments that people make about sports cards. Do they not equally or more apply to Pokemon? I mean,
Yeah,
they're grading everything. It seems like. I mean, that's how the numbers are getting so big. They're not all Charizard and Pikachu. They're grading a wide range of stuff, just like in sports. If you grade lower level stuff that later is not worth as much as what it costs to slab it, it gives people a bad taste in their mouth. Now, whether that's Pokemon or sports cards, they need to wise up.
yeah. It's a good
It's
comment there
funny.
from Chris. And
Yeah.
Pokemon cards are a lot easier to grade too. They have rounded corners. They're. I would think that the PSA is happy to get more of those. It's pretty much easier for them to go ahead and slab them up pretty quickly and move through those 1.5 million cards they're grading every month.
So my kids are all in their mid-20s now, but back when they were kids, they were Pokemon people. Like they had the games and they did the whatever you do, and then they had cards. So we've recently found Pokemon cards, and to this comment, none of them were mint. They were all played with, and then they moved on. I've always thought of Pokemon as a little kids thing because that's what my kids did, and then they grew up. Of course, I played with baseball cards when I was a kid, so sometimes you don't grow up.
Well, I will
Yeah,
say that I was watching
Yeah.
the news yesterday and the local news, and they had a reporter over at the Comic-Con, which is happening now, I think, in New York.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, that place was packed. Seemed like the National to me. And it was mostly, of course, they get all dressed up and all that, but they were showing all the cards, and there were Pokemon and TCG and all those games. And, anything that brings more attention to the hobby, I think it's a good thing. And it's bringing new people into this hobby and more collectors. And like Dr. Jim says, it's all a good thing as long as, I'll stay in my lane. But it's good to see the young guys coming in and different groups of people.
So yeah, I mean it's a different world, and I don't necessarily understand it. But there's a comment here.
Dan, that's a really interesting comment. I mean, Rex is a really savvy business guy. If he's correct, then that's not a bad thing. What it means, because baseball cards did not have a bubble when COVID, the first year or two of COVID. It was it peaked. I mean, it had a big surge, let's call it, a big tsunami almost, and things went to world record prices at that time. And then the next couple of years it moderated. Well, now it's back again. And so Pokemon, so that there's been an ebb and flow. So if Rex is correct, then right now we're in that surge for Pokemon, and then it may go down more reasonable, establish a plateau, and then continue to grow. I think it's here to stay. I mean, there's just too many people that think it's a fun thing. It's fun and it's rewarding.
Yeah, I agree completely with that.
I like this one. Pokemon folks. They're having a lot of fun, and they're more friendly than sports cards.
Well, I will tell you,
know.
at the shows that I went to the show here in Palm Beach, and like I said, it was mostly Pokemon. But it wasn't just old guys like us as the dealers. There were women there, a lot of women
Yeah.
dealers, a lot of young couples that were there. So it was good to see a different variety of the people that collect Pokemon versus the guys that collect. We're mostly men driven, but you saw a lot of women dealers and with their boyfriends and stuff there. I would say, I don't know, probably 20-30% women, where if you go to a vintage show, you're not even going to find a handful. So I think that that also helps get more people involved, and a lot of kids, which is a good thing to
Yeah.
see.
I mean, guys,
Well,
if somebody walks in the door and they're 15 or 25 or 35 or 45, and if they can turn right for sports and turn left for Pokemon, we got to figure out why they want to turn left instead of right. And so we've got to figure it out. Is there something that is less appealing about? I don't think so, but what are they going for that we don't have?
well, I mean, I talked about this recently on a podcast about nostalgia, and a lot of it, I think, if my kids, my boys and my daughters, who were also into Pokemon, decided to start collecting Pokemon cards, it would be basically because it brings back great memories from their childhood, which is kind of part of the reason we're all collecting baseball cards. So there's some of it to that, but like the 12, 13, 14-year-old kids with the Zion boxes running around, I don't know what the motivation is, why they would turn to that instead of sports. It's just a personality thing.
That last comment, Dan, the Pokemon people really are not looking like we are at scarcity or numbered stuff like that, because there are no numbered cards in Pokemon. And there's a Pokemon card that they put there earlier with the Pikachu hat or something on there. There's
Right.
40,000 of those cards graded PSA 10s. 40,000. And that card is over $1,000. You would think that with so many of those graded PSA 10, it wouldn't be worth that much. If it was a baseball card, 40,000 of those graded a 10, I don't think there's any baseball card in that matches that up that would be over $1,000 card, a four-figure card like that. But
Yeah,
apparently in Pokemon, it's more the nostalgia, the look. They want to have that card no matter how many they're out there. So I think it's a different world. And like Dr. Beckett says, hopefully we can get some of those people to turn our way a little bit in the future. We'll have to see what happens with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree overall that more commerce in the card world is not a bad thing for anyone. So, I mean, ultimately, Dr. Jim is correct. But we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. So, the other topic we wanted to talk about was this basically, which is that what did I do with it? Where'd it go? Sorry, guys. I'm trying to put this up. Oh, there it is. There we go. Topps regains NBA trading card license, which started on October 1st, so only 10 days ago. They officially got the NBA card license back after having lost it, I guess, in 2010, I think. But what it boils down to is Topps and Fanatics now have all the four main sports, all the licenses, and it kind of reeks of the days when Topps had a monopoly from 1956 to 1981. So, I mean, I kind of, back in the vintage days, it's kind of a thing that we think about, and we think about the, the card wars of the golden age, and what that did for the hobby, or what it did positive or negative for the hobby. And I'm thinking, Orlando, US in a text, whether that was a monopoly, and I think it is essentially.
Yeah, remember what happened when Bowman and Topps started. I mean, I think the the best era for me in cards, especially baseball cards, were, you know, the early 50s, where Bowman and Topps were competing, and you know, the 52 Topps came out, and then 53 Bowman came out, which is probably the best set Bowman ever brought out, and you know, Topps came back with another great issue, and you know, they were competing back and forth, back and forth. And then when Topps got into kind of like the 60s, it became bland, you know. And there was one time there that, I mean, if you look at some of the cards from 60, 67, 68, 69, they used a lot of the same photos, same pictures, and they got kind of stale there. So my concern with that is that, you know, are they going to just kind of not innovate, you know? And then when 89 Upper Deck came out, then Topps had to innovate with the Stadium Club, and then with the Topps Finest and the refractors started coming out in 93. And I think that was because of, you know, Dunruss and all the other guys that came in to the hobby that forced Topps to innovate a lot more than they had before, especially with the refractors in 93. So my concern is what's going to happen now. I think in a few months, you know, they're going to start with the football. They already got the basketball out. And I don't know. What do you think, Dr. Jim? What do you think is going to happen with that?
I just want to bring a different perspective because I have not heard this discussed, but I don't think Pokemon is having any trouble with only having one licensee. You know, so I think when I look back historically over the last 30 or 40 years, there have been periods, as Dan is saying, of not much innovation. But there have also been periods of over innovation, where when you have multiple licensees, they're each trying to out produce, out innovate, out create, outdo each other, almost to absurd levels, which is not necessarily good for the customer. You know, I don't think it's. I mean, why do we think we don't have serial numbered cards with Pokemon? They don't need to. But the serial number craze, you know, started with numbering to 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000. It's down now to, if it's not a one of one, it's so I think over innovation is not a. It's hard to think about that, except you look in the 90s when you had 13, or early 90s, you had 13 football licensees. There's some crazy stuff there. And it was survival of the fittest, but a lot of companies went out of business. So I want Panini to still make cards. I want them to make them to the best of their ability, to the best of the licensing capability that they have. But the leagues have determined that they are better served by having one licensee for the three major sports, and they've cast their lot with Fanatics, which owns Topps, which is the probably the preeminent historical brand in the hobby. And so I don't see it as all bad. And you know what, guys? We don't have a vote.
Yeah.
We don't have a vote.
Well, we have a pocketbook, so I mean that's a vote. You know, and this was what I was going to say. And Orlando, I totally agree with you. The best years for sports cards are probably like 53, 54, when you had both going at each other, doing their best products. Even like, you know, regional issues, you get your Red Hearts, those kinds of things. Like, we had a really good year in 1953 and again in 1954 for baseball cards. But one of the worst times for baseball cards in my book is 81, 82, 83, when Fleer is just putting out tons of stuff and it's total garbage. And then you get Donruss and all that stuff. And for the 80s baseball, the you know, it's the beginning of the junk wax era. You're just, as Dr. Jim said, they're just flooding the market with junk. And in that sense, maybe having one license isn't necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, Topps got a little stale, but you know, Topps in the 70s was pretty freaking cool. So they had the only license, and that's my era. Is that, like, you know, 70 to 75, 76. And they did a nice job back then. So, you know, there's two sides to the argument. I think basically, again, we don't have a vote in this, but you know, we do have a pocketbook, so we do have some power, but we'll see.
We talk about Coke and Pepsi, Hertz and Avis, where there's like a duopoly, where there's two major companies that kind of control some segment of business or industry. But most things are close, more like the 80-20 rule, that there's one major player. And that's mostly been the case in the history of the hobby, that there was one major card set and the others were in a distant second. And 53, I think Bowman, Dan, was in second place. And the gap started widening in 54, 55, such that Topps picked them up. In 52, it may have been a fair fight, but 52 tipped the scales toward Topps. And like I say, a lot of these things are winner take all. And Fanatics is the last one standing for the complete licensed cards. But I think Panini can still put out some great cards. Leaf, Upper Deck. I think they'll be creative, but they'll be creative within those bounds.
Yeah, I think Leaf is being very, very creative, as far as what they're coming out with, the patch and the autos and combinations. And they're coming out with a lot of things, not just sports, with a lot of different, movies and shows and things like that. And, I like to see some of that innovation continue. And Panini, of course, they're going to continue. They're not going to give up. And I do like their cards also. It's just a shame that you won't be able to see, the logos and the shirts, with the teams and things like that on the cards. But, it is what it is. That's the future.
Yeah, I mean, I get this. I get
Can
this
I respond
comment.
to Ryan?
Yeah. Go ahead, Dr. Jim.
No, the whole point of the too much innovation is too many choices. So loving fewer choices, less than infinity, is rational. I want choices, but I don't want so many choices that I throw up my hands and I'm confused. And there are some products that are like that. And there have been some periods in the hobby where you got burned because there were too many choices, and some of them were not well thought out.
I echo that. I mean, I think that there's choices and then there's quality. When you're buying cards, you want a card that has quality to it. And if you're putting out 1981 Fleer, that's not quality. I don't want that card in my collection. I'm not going to buy that product if it comes out. If it's and so what you're talking about, essentially, I think what we're agreeing on is that you want somebody to put out product that you feel proud to go and buy. And if there's too much, you're going to get a bunch of junk.
Yeah, and you also have to look at, long term, which are the cards that are going to be more desirable in the long term, the ones that are officially licensed or the ones that are not?
Yeah.
Which cards are the ones that the collectors are going to want to gravitate a little more towards? That's another question I think we could throw out there.
Well, I don't think we're ever going to agree on this one.
No, it's more complicated than that, because we're talking about partially licensed and fully licensed. There's cards out there that are not licensed at all. They're these custom cards. Who's to say that in 10 years, some super creative, highly artistic card that's a custom card is something that, sorry about that, is the key card that somebody wants of a player, because it's so ornate and so unique. So
one of a kind. You're
10
right.
years, who knows?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I think Ryan's point here is good, is that, competition does breed, in some respects, better products, as we saw in 52 and 53. But, you end up, ultimately, the cream rises to the top. And I think we can agree on that, certainly.
Well, no, but it's not, it's more complicated than that. We're not barring somebody from entering. The leagues determined, they looked at the landscape and saw Panini, saw Topps, saw Upper Deck, and made a choice. So it wasn't sight unseen. They saw the body of work and the potential, and the bankroll and all that stuff and the marketing plan, and they made a choice. So it wasn't, and it was preemptive. I'm not saying that, but it wasn't like there was a new company coming in and they wanted a chance.
Yeah.
They definitely saw the money, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, Panini had 15 years of being able to be the exclusive license, and frankly, I don't think they did a great job with it. But that's my opinion.
But maybe, Dan, there was a perception that they over innovated in terms of taking things to extreme levels in terms of the parallels. Maybe that was something the league said, you know what, Topps had as a different approach, where they give pack odds. There's a lot of distinctives between the approaches of the two companies. Topps prints to demand mostly, and Panini was doing the Dutch auction thing, which again was an innovation. They looked at that and they said, we're casting our lot with Fanatics.
And I can't blame them. I mean,
Yeah.
I would have made the same choice. Fanatics is really the big boy in the hobby right now. They're controlling pretty much everything, not just cards, but also apparel and everything else. So you can't blame, the leagues for going and choosing them. Obviously, they're the ones with the most funds, and they're the ones that could probably do the best job for them. And I agree. I mean, Panini just got crazy with all these parallels, the same card over and over and over. And, now you see some Panini even using AI to do the cards. And, I like to see actual photos. I don't like to see these AI things that they could put out there. They just don't look as good. All these downtowns and all that stuff done. You could see some of them where you can't even tell the player's hands. It looks like they have 3 or 4 fingers, And hopefully that will improve, and they could use actual photographs. Take some time, take some money to go out there and hire some people to do a good job with the cards, and not produce 20 parallels, 30 parallels of the same card.
I don't know anything about the latest Bowman Chrome.
Well, I had a dinner the other night, and a couple of guys from Topps were there over at in my office here, and they're the same guys that were creative at Panini in the product development. So, and they're great guys, but they mentioned that there's focus groups, and they're trying to see what do collectors really want on the card fronts, on the backs, the attributes, all that stuff. So these are veterans in the industry. And Chris, I take your point, but many of the product development guys at Topps now used to be at Panini, and that's subject to a lawsuit, which will be resolved. But so you're going to see some similar things, because people want parallels. They don't want to throw up their hands and say there's just too much. I'm confused. There's 80 parallels of certain cards. It's I believe that's too much.
Yeah.
Say that.
Right.
Yeah, you just
Chris,
can't remember all the names of these parallels. And I mean, imagine.
They talk about a rainbow. How many rainbows have 80 colors in them?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a spectrum, but there's the Olympic rings. You don't see this infinite number of rings or Pantone color chart. And snake skins and all these kind of things. So it's very creative. It's very innovative, but I hope there'll be some balance.
Yeah, and the same with the numbers.
Still involved in a significant way in the hobby, and Upper Deck, Leaf, all of them.
The same with the numbered cards, number to 1, number to 5, number to 10, 25, 50, 100. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And it's essentially, in many cases, the same card. But I agree. I mean, if they could just limit it to maybe, no more than 10 parallels, I think that would be pretty good. At least you can keep track of it and know what they're even called.
But if you had 2 licensees, one of them would say, we're going to stop at 10. The other guy would say, we're going to go to 20. And then the other would say, we're going to go to 30. We're going to go to 40. We're going to go to 50. I mean, it's the sense of competition to try to find, because there is no sweet spot, Orlando. I mean, I agree with you. Sentimentally, 10 would be great. 20 would be great compared to what they're doing now.
Yeah.
But they're going to keep tweaking it.
Yeah.
So I want to bring up something here if I can do it correctly. There we go. $40,000 for 10 cards.
Yeah, that's.
I remember when I went into the grocery store in 1970 and put 12 cents on the counter and got my 10 cards. So it's a little different these days. $40,000 for 10 cards, and somebody did the math, and somebody looked up what like the best cards for these sell for, and you don't even get a card. If you get like the best card, it's going to get like $15,000 to $17,000. So you're at a losing proposition, I think, from pretty much from the get-go. And what's interesting about this is that let me do the stop the screen. There we go.
I mean, are they going to come?
What's interesting about it?
Box or something? I think $40,000.
Yeah,
I know
they
that's
said this
their
like
high end, but I think that's gone way. It jumped the shark already.
Yeah. It ties into like the other issue that I want to talk about in this whole overpricing, overprinting thing, is that the only people that can afford to buy a $40,000 box or really care about this product are breakers. So what it really boils down to is that you're going to spend, or somebody who can afford to buy into this is going to spend $4,500 or $5,000, whatever the breaker needs to make money on this, to get one card. And it's really dangerous, because most of these cards are not going to be worth $4,000. In fact, most of them are going to be worth virtually nothing. Not nothing. Let me take that back. They're going to be worth money, but not the kind of money that you're going to spend. It's a losing proposition, literally, for everyone except the breakers.
No, the breaker has to believe in the product. They have to put their money out there saying, I believe I can move this product with into my breaking community. If they're wrong about that, then they're sitting with a bunch of product that they bought that they can't move at the prices they thought they could move. Now, if they've got it all pre-sold, that's great. But I agree with you, except that don't throw the breakers under the bus. If the breakers got together and got with the card companies and said, you know what, you're just pricing this stuff too high. And they probably are saying that in some cases. The only problem with that is that the higher the price of the product, if they're making a percentage margin, they're making more money with the higher priced products. But somebody's got to say no, and it could be the breakers to say, I have a breaking community, I have a brand to protect, and if I put stuff out there that people are going to be consistently losing, then it's going to hurt the hobby and hurt my brand.
Let me flip that back. Let me flip that back on you, Dr. Jim. My thinking is that the prices going up, I think, are because of breakers, and I think that breakers do not necessarily have a motivation to have lower prices, because lower prices are higher prices are a barrier to entry for the customer, for the breaker. Because if you see a box for a small amount, you can just buy the box. If the box is too much for you to afford, and you can only afford to get a fraction of that box, like one spot or two spots, then you can become a customer of the breaker. So in essence, the breaking companies are better off having higher prices that their customers can't afford to buy the entire product. Does that make sense?
For sure. That's true for sure. I mean, you wouldn't. I agree, but you're in a situation where there is no well, hopefully, Fanatics is not going to create some kind of monopoly of breakers. Where they're required to sell at a certain price or to do certain things in order to get product. If it's free out there and breakers can price it the way they want to price it, then people can say, I'm going to buy from this breaker and not from that. And there'd be some pressure to not overprice products. I mean, if they're going for, if they're going for the SRP, the first thing that starts is the card company puts out a product that they're pricing at a level that they think they can make money, or they actually know they're going to make money. And the breakers have to jump in and say, I think I can make money on this too. And they make money two ways. One is they can make money just at the SRP if they can sell out their break with their appropriate markup. But if the secondary market drives the product up, that's where they make the really big bucks. And it has to that's what we get for being in an unregulated industry. It's the Wild West, and it's exciting if you make good choices. If you say, hey, this product is going to be hard to find. It's got, but not what you said, Dan, of the best card out of a $40,000 product is not equal to the price of the product. That is not what people are looking for. Their investment decisions, their buying decisions are based on an unrealistic approach to, this is the best card I could get. And so just like when you're looking at the big state lotteries, they're looking at the giant payoff, and they're, what's the best I could do. So I think that mindset is still there. People are not doing the math, which you just did, Dan. That's why you're not going to buy into that, because it's not a good deal.
Yeah, it's obviously working for them because there's
It's
more
working
breakers
because
coming
you're
in.
not the customer. I'm not
Right.
the customer.
Right.
When those customers, not us smart old guys, say one thing, it's when their customers say, you've gone too far.
Yeah. Well, Dan, it's a little different nowadays. You've got a lot of these younger professionals coming into the hobby. Many of them, they, they don't, they're not married. They don't have kids. They've got money to throw out there, and for them, it's a gamble, and they're enjoying it, and they've got money to spend. I mean, look how the stock market's done well. Gold is at its highest. A lot of people have taken money out of Bitcoin, and they're enjoying it doing this because they don't have a family, they don't have kids, they may not even own a home. For us, as when we were growing up, I got married young, I bought a house young, I had kids early. I couldn't throw out all this money, but nowadays it's a different world. So I think that you've got a lot of young guys there with money to spend, and they're going after some of this stuff, and the breakers are doing well. I mean, I don't hear any breakers complaining that they're not making money, they're not losing money, and obviously it's going to continue. I mean, I think eventually you'll have less breakers, and Whatnot supposedly is cracking down a little bit on some of that, and mystery boxes and stuff like that. But the hobby's strong. It's stronger than it's ever been. It's not our cup of tea, but there's definitely a huge market out there, and that's why the manufacturers are able to price these products so high.
It's so much the opposite of what turned out to be perhaps the best investment over the last 6 months, which also would be the most boring. And certainly nobody young is going to do it. And it's gold, just buying gold. There's no interest being thrown off. You can't really look at, I mean, you could touch it and all that stuff, but one bar of gold or ounce of gold is the same as another. So it's boring. It's not exciting. It's not dynamic, except the price has gone up significantly. With now looking back, it looked like that was a very low risk play, trying to figure out which player I'm going to get. Is this guy going to increase or all that stuff? No, just if you just bought gold 6 months ago or 8 months ago, you would have done great. Okay. But that's boring. So that's, in fact, it's not even gambling. It looks like it was a no-brainer when you do hindsight. You think, here were the macroeconomic conditions. It suggested, wow, that's, and some people got in on it. But people don't like that. That's boring. They want the excitement of, I picked this player, I chose this set, the aesthetics, the autograph, the game used materials. It sings to them. It's a story. Where gold is not a story. You just read about that in the Wall Street Journal. This is our sandbox, and we got special stuff that you have to know which one to buy, because some of them went up. Gold went up 50% or so, 45%. A lot of cards went up more than that, but the average card didn't go up 45%.
And the average card went down.
All gold went up 45%.
Yeah. Great point, Dr. Jim.
Yeah, but Babe Ruth cards look better.
Exactly. And well, that looked like a no-brainer, same thing. That if you invest in the older stuff, in fact, you know what? You are the vintage guy, Dan. Or Solando and I are too, but
yeah.
Well, I've been putting the last few weeks, I've been putting all of my cards into Card Ladder. And because my record keeping previously was terrible. And I've learned a few things. One, that I own too many cards. And two, that the cards that I bought have, for the most part, kept or done better value-wise than when I bought them. And I made some really good decisions and some not great decisions. But ultimately, if I were to invest in anything in the hobby, a vintage baseball seems to have done pretty well for me. So I feel like, it's again, like Dr. Jim said, in a way it's kind of boring because everybody knows like your Babe Ruth card is going to go up in value, but not everybody, playing the game and being able to pick the star that's going to take off makes you feel smart and makes you feel like you know what you're doing, and it's fun and it's exciting, and it's almost like being in the sports book of a casino where you go in and pick the game, you pick the underdog and they win on the money line, and suddenly you're the smartest guy in the
it's not only vintage, Dan. If you've been looking at the market lately, a lot of the 80s cards, look at the 89 Griffey in a PSA 10, it's basically doubled in the last 6 months. Some of those Topps Tiffany cards, the Bonds Tiffany traded, all those cards have really shot up because people are realizing those are a little more limited as far as, the junk wax era. So there are a lot of cards that are going up, and, all of this is great. The hobby's hot. And, what's that saying that the high water lifts all boats eventually, or whatever it is. And I think that's what's happening. I think, there's a lot of stuff that is going up in value, but there's a lot of stuff that is going down, and that's a lot of the real modern stuff too.
That's part of the interest in the hobby, is that gold, you just, I can't show you my gold. All gold is gold, but the hobby is multifaceted, just vintage versus modern or ultra modern, or all these kind of things, different sports. And so the allocations, in your gold, what is your allocation? Where you get Krugerrands as opposed to something else? I mean, basically, in card industry, you have so many choices of where to put your money, and you could be a buy and hold kind of person, like some of us are, or you could be a flipper. But what's going to be the next hot thing? And switch lanes, switch categories. I actually like to stay in my lane, but there's some young people that have done great by trying to find the next great player or the next hot sport.
It's exciting. It's fun.
It's more exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a philosophical point that is generally true. And when I was told what to buy for my what stocks to buy for my retirement account many years ago, it was always boring. Not blue chips, not the gas companies and electric companies and the kind of companies that just are going to always be there. They're not going to go zoom up or they're not going to zoom down. So, they're going to slow gain, which is kind of what I have behind me. So same concept. Yeah, they brainwashed us all into grading our cards. Well, yeah. Yep.
That's a good point, Rex.
So our last issue, we got about a little less than 10 minutes left. Was I think there was the print runs on Tops. Now I don't know if, let's see if I can get this.
Yeah, the new Tops basketball that came out is just
Yeah.
going crazy with the, they're just printing the heck out of this thing.
Yeah.
But I think the scary thing is that I think it came out at $109 a box, sold out immediately, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden the prices are double on eBay or anything else. But yeah, put that back up if you can, so you give the guys a chance to see the numbers. And I think that Neo Cards and Comics did a great video on that.
Yeah, let me see how I can get this up. Yeah, it's this is a screenshot from an Instagram from Neo, and then Neo did a video on this. And the odds are pretty brutal, but his point, and I disagree with him ultimately, was that yeah, they're printing it to the moon, but it doesn't matter. It's a flagship product, and there's going to be a lot on the market, which I don't know what how he came to that conclusion. I mean, always the history of baseball cards or sports cards in general are littered with bad decisions based on overprinting. I mean, we literally, have
they weren't
given a pejorative name to an entire era that is junk, essentially, because it was overprinted. So, I mean, are we back in a junk wax era?
Dan, that's hindsight. There were takers when ProSet was putting it all that stuff out there and printing many extra millions or billions of cards. There were people giving it shelf space. So there's culpability throughout. So Topps is not just printing it up, hoping they have a marketing plan, and they could have priced it higher, but they're getting off the mark here. Sounds like with a real winner for their first products. Increasing sales is good, and and distributors being able to not have to mark things down, to mark things up a little bit is generally better than marking them down in this industry. When it doubles overnight, that looks like a mispricing, and Topps shouldn't be happy about that unless they are so sinister that they did that on purpose to get people excited about we're back, we're here with basketball.
Well, I mean, I think that the stats show that more than half the products are opened immediately by breakers. So I think that they're scooping up everything as fast as they can, and then that's why the box prices have gone up. But like Dr. Jim said, yeah, overnight the prices doubled from what you could buy them at Tops the day before. But I think that's because all these breakers bought so much. And back in the 80s, remember, everybody was stocking up. They would buy cases of that stuff, put them in their garage, thinking that they were going to use it to pay their kids' college. So, but now it's just the breakers are scooping up half or even more of the allocation, and you see them opening just constantly, and that's going to drive the prices up because the collector that wants to go buy that box, there's a lot less available, and now they're going up in price so quickly.
Well, when Hurricane Sandy destroyed about a third of my my collection, the best part of the best thing that the junk wax did for me was that it was all the stuff that was on the bottom. So that's all the stuff that got thrown out. So the junk wax actually ended up saving much of my vintage collection by just being like a buffer. So it did serve a purpose in that sense. I'm being facetious, but the reality is it was garbage anyway. I mean, my 1989 score complete sets were not making me any money in 2012. So we're at 55 minutes. We're gonna close up in about a little less than 5 minutes. Orlando, any closing thoughts, concerns, ideas, anything you want to talk about with
I really think that
respect to? Go ahead.
I just really think that the hobby is better than ever, in my opinion. I think we've got more people involved in the hobby. You've got just more money in the hobby. You've got just I think it's hot. The hobby's as hot as I've seen it in many, many, many years, and I just think it's going to get better and better. I think this is a good time to be involved in this hobby.
Dr. Jim, any closing thoughts or concerns or questions or ideas?
I'm a capitalist like everybody else, but if Michael Rubin wants to 10x the hobby, I hope that's not 10xing the cost of the products or the prices. I hope it's 10xing the number of collectors and the number of people that enjoy. And then the prices will go up, but go up in a reasonable way. Actually, they'll probably go up significantly if you have 10 times as many collectors. But that's what I'm thinking. I want this to be a welcoming place. And so our cousins kind of are the Pokemon people. They're already collectors of sorts. They're a different kind of collector, but they are a collector. And so, the other cousins we have are all the people that wear apparel, licensed apparel. And I'm hopeful that Michael Rubin and the Fanatics, the larger Fanatics entities, the other group of cousins we got are the gamblers, and Michael Rubin's trying to get a foothold there. And some of them are coming into sports cards. So maybe that's the 10X is that sports cards. And what Chris was saying, that in uncertain economic times they go to collectibles, but I really think they go to established collectibles. They don't go to untested collectibles. But baseball cards have had a 100-year run of being in the public awareness, since T206s and Gaudies and all that stuff. So I think there's a track record there. It's not like Beanie Babies or things like that were, and Pogs, that were a flash for a while, but not stood the test of time. So I want this to be a welcoming place. And when people come in, I want them to have a good experience so they'll stay. And that's what I'm committed to.
Well, I join in that sentiment. Baseball cards as a concept of being worth money is something that came up literally in my lifetime. I mean, I started going to shows in the 1970s, and until then, for me, baseball cards were just something I wrote my name on and flipped with my friends. But when it became a thing about making money, that was the 1970s, and that's 50 years ago. So yeah, I totally agree with you, Dr. Jim, that it's something that stands the test of time. But I think one of the things that's happening now in the way that the cards that are going up in the vintage world tend to be the cards that are more blue chips, which makes perfect sense with the economic discussion that we've had, that sometimes, maybe your 1964 Alkaline is not worth any more than it was 10 years ago, but the Alkaline rookie card is certainly worth more than it was 10 years ago. So in that sense, I think you've made a point that is economically sound. So I am again extremely honored to have been on a panel with two of the hobby greats, and two great individuals who have done so much for my personal hobby. And that I am not only humbled but appreciative of both of you. So thank you, gentlemen, for both joining me today, and I hope to have more discussions in the future.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dr. Jim.
Thanks, Orlando. Still praying.
And
for
the
you.
Thank you.
Chat was terrific today, and chat was with us all day and all hour, and giving us some great food for thought. So thank you, chat. So anyway, we're going to close up Hobby Hotline. Of course, it'll be back next Saturday at 11 a.m. As it will be every week on For Collectors, and so happy with the with the teamwork and everything that's come together with everyone. So really appreciate John Newman as always behind the scenes this week doing a lot of work. So anyway, thank you, folks. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.